That's DB. I'm Ravi Lulla, and we are joined now by Brian Hanni, the play-by-play voice of the Kansas Jayhawks. Brian, how are you this morning?
Doing well, fellas. Thanks for having me on. How are you?
Boy, listen to that golden voice. There it is, Brian. Good to talk to you again. Hey, this is interesting. We talked to Coach Service yesterday, and we're saying, hey, kind of what concerns you. Creighton likes their pitching depth and the numbers at the top of the lineup, and he said this is are without question the best offensive ball club we've seen. They do it a multitude of ways. Is that kind of the scouting report as you kind of nutshell it? Is this is a really good offensive baseball team?
I think you can certainly start with that, no doubt. But if we just stopped there, we'd probably be selling short the total team that Kansas has put together under Dan Fitzgerald. Because, yes, the offense is great. 100 home runs is a school record. The previous mark was 25 less than that. So it goes to show you, the record-setting pace they've been on in slugging percentage and home runs and run scoring at 8.2 runs per game. Brady Ballinger, obviously, is a guy with an on-base percentage north of 500, a midseason All-American, and Jackson Hauge's 2 home runs shy of the single-season school record. So offensively, they've been a ton of fun. Outside of not stealing a ton of bases, honestly, though, this club does all things well. They've got excellent starting pitching, particularly in the first 2 chairs of a weekend with Dominic Bagley, followed by Cooper Moore. And then you take a look at the defense on this team. They've tied the school record in fielding percentage. So best home run hitting club, best defensive team. I thought they had the best 1-2 punch in terms of starting pitchers in the Big 12 this year. The bullpen has some talent toward the back end. Middle relief is a little bit less than what they had a year ago, and they probably don't have as many trusted options in the pen as they had a year ago. But by and large, there's so many strengths of this team. It's hard to find a ton of weak links, and there's certainly not one through 9 in the batting order, which is different than what we're used to seeing at Kansas, where they've always had some good hitters, but there was usually a blind spot or 2 in there. 1 through 9, this is a fearsome group top to bottom. And so I think you're right to lead with the offense, but I wouldn't be doing my job if I didn't tell you about pitching and defense, because they've been very good too.
Historically, full disclosure, I'm not a huge RPI across the multitude of sports, but I do believe in baseball it is fairly accurate because I can always get into scheduling and strength of schedule with conferences. Always been solid this season with the RPI. Dab smack, 23, 24 in the RPI. The conference is legit. The scheduling is legit. But bigger than that, what is it about Kansas's athletic department and the administration that has allowed kind of the periphery sports to continue to kind of blossom and develop and thrive even with how they schedule, how they handle their business with their respective sports that isn't, basketball, that isn't football, where you're right dab smack where you need to be as a 2 seed in a region and in the Midwest where everything's dominated by the Sun Belt. Here's Kansas holding their own.
Yeah, well, I think it starts with great coaching hires, because there was a time not too far long ago when we didn't excel in a ton of peripheral sports. You had volleyball under Ray Bouchard that was great. You had, obviously, Stanley Redwine's job with track and field that was outstanding year in and year out. Redwine was the recent Team USA national coach at the Paris Olympics for the men's side last year. So you had some pillars within the shall we say, non-revenue sports or Olympic sports, right? But across the board success was a little more fleeting. You'd have some good years out of Jamie Bermel in golf and a few occasional soccer seasons under Mark Francis that were great. But ever since Travis Goff took over, we've seen 5 consecutive coaching hires that have been absolute home runs. I like to joke that he's batting 1,000 in home run hires, and they're all grand slams at this point. I mean, Lance Leipold, clearly with football, has put Kansas on the map as a year-in, year-out Big 12 contender.
A guy we're familiar with.
Yeah, no doubt. A lot of ties up there. And he was 1 win away from going to back-to-back bowl games for the first time in school history, and probably should have been there a year ago. But it's a club that is projected to win 8 games this fall in football. You look at soccer with Nate Lee. He was in his first season at Kansas last fall. they win the Big 12 tournament title in year one. Lindsey Cool has made the golf program a year in, year out NCAA tournament team. We think, Coach Ulmer on the volleyball side is going to pick up where Ray Bouchard had it and take it, to even higher ground. So all of these coaching hires have been awesome. And Leipold is the most important one because of the revenue driver that football is on a collegiate campus. But some would argue, and I've been on 2 shows this week that have asked me straight up, is Fitz the best of the hires? Man, I'm not going to answer that question. That's a tough one. I work for both Lance and Fitz, and I think they're both Grand Slam homers. But, man, to see what he's built in such a short window, and then you're reminded of the fact that when he left LSU, his thumbprints were all over that national championship roster that won it all the following year. When you look at who all he put in the major leagues in his 9 seasons at Dallas Baptist, working with Coach Heepner down there, I mean, he's been a success everywhere he's been. And so I don't know who's the best of the home run hires. As I said, Lance is the most important for the sake of our athletic department. But Fitz has certainly, in a very short window, now is Big 12 Coach of the Year. And let's call it like it is. They probably should have been Big 12 champions. It was a rare scheduling quirk that had the league champion play 2 fewer games based on a tragic deal with the devastating fires that took place in Stillwater, Oklahoma back in mid-March that caused the OSU West Virginia series to be shortened. Because of that, Kansas did not win the Big 12, even though they had the most league wins, and swept the league winner in their park in the final series of the regular season. So he got the award that was one you could hand out based on opinion. They did not win the team honor that had to do with winning percentage, unfortunately, but this is a really, really good club. And to be talking about things like that in year 3 speaks to the Herculean effort he's made to get this thing on a national prominent level.
Brian, so you were talking earlier about the strengths of this team. Obviously, you like them 1 through 9 in the lineup. You mentioned Moore and Vegley on the starting pitching. So that middle relief, we see that end up being a huge factor in these regionals so often, especially if you end up having to take a loss and go the long way around the barn there. Who do you look at within the options in middle relief and you go, okay, this is a guy that if Kansas is going to have to extend the bullpen a little bit, this is a guy that has the ability and has to be able to step up big?
Yeah, that's an excellent question, especially in this particular weekend format. And Manning West has become that guy of late. 6 consecutive scoreless innings, including 3 2/3 hitless at number 16 West Virginia in his final regular season appearance. And then he backed it up with 2 1/3 lights out at the Big 12 tournament against Oklahoma State. So he's really peaking at the right time. He's the type of guy they can turn to for 3+ innings. He's been a midweek starter at times. He's a guy they could really lean on if they had to go to him earlier than anticipated. Having said that, the recipe for success this weekend, as we all know, you win your first 2 games, you're in the catbird seat. They need to get lengthy starts, not just quality starts, but lengthy starts out of Dom Vegley and Cooper Moore the first 2 days. And if they get them through 7, Alex Breckheimer, their closer, has proven to be their most trusted bullpen option, and routinely they ask him to get 6-out saves. When we swept West Virginia 2 weeks ago in Morgantown, and they were number 16 in the country, Kansas only used 5 pitchers all weekend. The 3 starters, Breckheimer and West. The 3rd starter is Cannon Carr, and he's going to play an important role in answering this question as well whenever we see him for the first time, which we would hope would be game 3 as a starter. But he's a guy that typically only goes between 5 and 6 innings. He's not going to go deep into his starts. Cooper Moore has 4 of his league starts. He went 8 innings. Dominic Vegley has that potential as well. But because Kansas doesn't have a ton of, tried and true middle relief options that they trust a ton, you'd like to get deeper quality starts out of the starters and really shorten the game in terms of the number of guys you have to go to. Now, there's capable arms out there. They thought when they got Eric Lynn in the portal, he had one of the best fastballs in the transfer portal. They love Malachi Vitak, a Creighton guy that you know a lot about from right there in Omaha. He's come on a lot of late, actually. We're really impressed with what he's done down the stretch. Gavin Brzozowski's a Tennessee transfer with a big-time fastball from the left-hand side. Dalton Smith, there's other options. But if you look at the way the pitching coach, Brandon Scott, has managed the pitching game plan over the last month or so, there's two guys they really trust that are non-starters, and that's Breckheimer and Manning West. After that, it's a little bit of a mixed bag, and you hope you catch them on a good day. So that's why I say having the starters get you 21-plus outs is probably paramount, especially these first 2 days.
Yeah, I'm just going to tell you selfishly, and it's not because it's Creighton and I want to see extended series. I want to see all the uniform combinations. Listen, the gear is fantastic, man. I know you guys want the win in game one, man. But the longer you stay, the more combinations we get to see. The gear, man. You guys have spent some money on having the nice wardrobes, man. Looking forward to seeing some good baseball and a heck of a matchup.
I love that. You know, our best uniforms, in my opinion, are ones we rarely wear. We bust them out every year for the Buck O'Neill Classic because they're inspired by the Kansas City Monarchs.
Great Buck O'Neill.
Yes, yeah. Check out the Jayhawks tribute to Buck and the KC Monarchs of Jackie Robinson and Satchel Paige and all those great Negro Leagues, great players that played in Kansas City. It's our special alternative uniform that I don't even know if they packed them on this trip, but they look just like the Monarchs from 80 years ago, and you ought to check them out because I think they're about as cool as anything in college baseball.
Fantastic stuff, B. We appreciate you taking a few.
Hey, thanks so much, guys. All the best.
Straight from Brian Hanni, Kansas play-by-play voice, to John E. Hoover covering Oklahoma for Sooners on SI. John, how are you this morning?
I'm doing well. How's everybody there?
Good. Appreciate your patience, man. Going rapid fire and a little bit different rivalry rekindled with the Huskers and the Sooners, but man, no love lost here, man. How are you feeling about the matchup?
I love the matchup just from a historical perspective. You're talking about Oklahoma and you're talking about Nebraska. So go Big Red, go Big Red. I think that's what the both fan bases, at least the OU fans, used to say. But this is it's fun. It's always fun to get thrown into the ring, so to speak, with someone that you used to be in the house with, right, as a conference member for years and years, for decades and decades, and now you're playing them in a kind of a winner take all. Let's say it's a winner. I know it's double elimination, but it's a winner take all event. You win this one, you go on to the next round. So love it.
So, John, talk to me about the big decision this week from Oklahoma to not go with Kyson Witherspoon in game one. Obviously, the importance of getting that first win and not taking a loss early through these regionals is huge. Not that brother Witherspoon is any worse than Malachi, but Kyson's the guy, right? What went into that decision to save him?
Well, I think Skip might, I think he's arrived at Skip's his own guy. Let me just say it like that. He arrives at his decisions based on a lot of gut feel. So, if he thinks it's going to be a matchup situation, if he thinks Kyson Witherspoon is the best way for them to move forward by pitching in the first round, then that's what he'll do. If he wants to save him for the second round, right, and the potential matchup, if you get past the Huskers with number 6 national seed North Carolina, then all of a sudden you're looking at Kyson Witherspoon, one of the top pitchers in the country, going up against one of the best lineups in the country in UNC. So he is really big on matchups. He is really big on gut feel. Make decisions based on how you feel about that internally, and it's a little bit of a hard thing to quantify, just because you're talking about how someone else feels about something internally. So is Kyson the best guy to take on North Carolina? Maybe, I think he's trying to essentially maximize a guy like Kyson, who's, future first round pick. And he's trying to maximize that while also trying to minimize some places where they've struggled, which is with their second starter, especially in SEC play. Malachi, for instance, Malachi Witherspoon, his twin brother, he's 1-8 in SEC play with an ERA over 6. So it's not like he's been bad, but he's just had to face some really, obviously in the SEC, some incredible teams, some teams with their backs up against the wall, a lot of Sunday games, so it comes down to who's going to win the series. And so Malachi himself has had a tough maybe assignment as the third pitcher in SEC play. And then they've done some things mixing and matching in the bullpen. He really feels strongly about the quality of his bullpen. So I think he feels a certain way about Kyson. And then Cade Crossland, the left-hander, as the second option. Malachi as the second option. And then that bullpen, which has been mostly really good, as kind of a second option as well.
This is interesting, John. I'm always looking at the game within the game. It's strange, obviously, covering Nebraska, but I'm a Carolina fan, have been my whole life. I'm familiar with the ballpark, the layout. I saw the regional seedings, and I told our listeners, I said, it's not an offensive region. I think these games will be relatively low scoring. The ballpark will play that way. It's how Carolina plays. So I'm trying to get within the outside the obvious. And watching you guys all year, you guys can run, right? You got, I don't know, 6, 7 guys that have 10 bags. You got 5 that have more than 10 bags. You got 2 that haven't been caught yet. I look at Nebraska's catching, the battery. How critical or how key is it the way that Oklahoma plays in terms of being aggressive on the base paths and the way that they play, that if you're not familiar with it can cause you some problems defensively?
Yeah, it's Skip. He implemented this kind of mindset when he took over as head coach, but it really took hold in 2022 when OU made that run to the College World Series championship series against Ole Miss. Ended up losing to the Rebs, but he calls it chaos. Okay, CHAOS, chaos. But being OU, they put a little O in there, a little O and a U in there, right, together. So it's chaos. It's really weird. It's goofy, but that's their identity. That's their track. That's what they want to stick to. Is, if you're at first base, make them think you're going to steal. If you're at first base and you're not going to steal, make them know that you're probably going to go to third on anything hit to the right side. Anything hit to the right side. They get a lot of guys thrown out at third base, probably more than most, and that's because Skip and his staff are, Reggie Willits especially, trying to create offensive chaos, trying to make the pitcher think, trying to make the catcher think, trying to make outfielders worry about what their next move is offensively. So it has, for the past 3-4 seasons, it has been a fantastic setup for Oklahoma offensively, just making the pitcher uncomfortable, making the infielders have to consider, okay, well, now wait a minute, what did they do in this situation? Making the outfielders have to sit around and think, yeah, I better go ahead and get that ball in quickly. If there's a ball in the gap, I better hustle to it because, they're going to take that extra base. It's just something they really thrive on.
John, so maybe Oklahoma not playing as well as they'd like to coming in to regionals. Obviously lost 6 out of their last 7 in regular season play. Did get a couple wins in the SEC tournament before falling to Vanderbilt. How do they feel about the way they're playing right now overall?
Yeah, Skip talked about this earlier in the week. They left some meat on the bone in Hoover, Alabama at the SEC tournament. Didn't play as well as they should have. They won the first 2 games, beat Kentucky and Georgia, but then lose like they did to Vanderbilt. That was a team that they felt like they should have probably beaten. Didn't have a great pitching matchup, but the SEC has gotten them ready for NCAA tournament play. When you talk about 13 teams in the SEC made the tournament, 6 of those 8 national seeds are SEC teams, and all the regional hosts, 8 teams are hosting this week. Skip understands, and I think a lot of OU fans are patient with the fact that 2 years ago, 3 years ago, this program was not SEC ready. Okay, they were probably, when you consider where the SEC is as a conference athletically, everything the league has accomplished, baseball is probably their number 1 sport, which is crazy to say. Women's basketball has won all these national championships. Shoot, football, obviously. Men's basketball has turned a corner and has become the kind of preeminent league. But baseball is where the SEC is better than, or there's maybe a wider margin than, other sports between them and other conferences. So where Oklahoma was 3 years ago, they were struggling in the Big 12 at one point. And I wrote a column, I think I said on a podcast as well, that if they go to the SEC now, if this team were to go to the SEC now, they would be last place in the conference in fundraising, in attendance, in facility rankings, in talent on the field, across the board. And those guys, Skip told us after the season was over that they took those comments that were made publicly by some people, including myself, and they put them on the wall and they played them back on the speakers, on the podcast. They replayed them and they motivated them to get to the College World Series. Well, great. That's awesome. What do you do now? Now in 2025, you've had 3 years, right, to build up to the SEC. They did that, and they've made that progress. They've become that team or that program. When you look at the attendance records, 4,400, 4,600, whatever, by SEC standards, it's a little on the low side, but for Oklahoma standards, they've taken that next step, and it's just been wildly impressive to see where Oklahoma has come from, and how far they've come. And now, 14 and 16 in the SEC this year, not where you want to be. Your 12th place in the standings or whatever. Losing record. Nobody wants a losing record in conference play. But they were so competitive in so many of those games. If they had a different pitching outcome, if they had a maybe different pitching option on some of the Saturday or Sunday games, maybe they would have had a winning record. Maybe they would have finished, top 6 or something like that. So they're just that much closer to where they want to be as a program.
John, let me ask you something, because I admire his offensive prowess, considering it. I mean, he started all but one game last year. He's been an Ironman this year. What's the region getting? What's the country going to get when they watch Easton Carmichael?
He's he's obviously a professional catcher, right? I mean, he's very good.
Which makes the offensive numbers incredible, considering how good he is defensively.
Right.
It's uncanny.
No, that's a good observation. He's really good defensively. And when you see catcher's that position, right? Catcher and sometimes shortstop are that one position where you're like, if you're a genius defensively, then sometimes you're not necessarily all that great offensively. He breaks that mold a little bit. He doesn't follow that path. He's really good defensively, and he's explosive, super dynamic offensively. He can hit for power. He can hit for average. He's fast on the base paths. He adds to that chaos theory. So
I was just he can move.
Yeah.
Like is he a real 200 pounds?
Yeah, probably.
At the 12 steals on the season, like how many times?
Well, he's like 6'1". I'm telling you.
How many times do you see a catcher getting after it like
he's
that?
Legit, He's legit.
Yeah, he's like I said, he's a future pro. He's big time.
Man, John, we appreciate the time. Great stuff from you here. Enjoy the regional, and
let me sneak in one more if you give me a sec here. John.
Sure.
Oklahoma offensively, with what Brockett kind of brings to the table in terms of his pitch selection, what kind of hitting team would you kind of classify Oklahoma as? Off-speed guys, they hit the ball in the screws, fastball hitting team. Offensively, do you like this matchup with what Nebraska's bringing to the bump today?
Yeah, not obviously being an expert on Nebraska's pitching rotation and what kind of they like to throw, and who's available. I like Oklahoma's offense just about it. What am I trying to say? Against just about anybody. Got that one out. Because they do that. Okay, so they put pressure on you because of their speed and their attitude and their habits of running the bases and being aggressive, creating chaos. But they're talented too. They have been, when the season started, when the SEC season started, I should say, they looked like a real contender offensively to be that team, to be that offensive team, to be that club that's going to make a lot of noise at the top of the statistical standings. And now that you've gone through a full season of conference play, 30 games, you look back on it and you're like, yeah, we were not necessarily wrong about how Oklahoma has been with some of their power numbers, guys who have hit, multiple streak hitting, games and reaching base on consecutive streaks. They've had multiple double-digit guys, hitting for average, getting on base, creating, offensive chaos. Again, I keep leaning on that word, but here, and I don't know if this trends or tracks in college baseball in general in 2025, but review the season. They've got 2 guys who have a batting average in conference play, in SEC conference play, 2 guys over 300. That's down a little bit. That's a little below where we thought they were going to be. Okay, when conference play started. So it turns out that tracks for the entire season. Again, you got Carmichael with 14 bombs, but generally speaking, you're looking at 2 guys, Carmichael and Jackson Willits, who Jackson's season has been like this. He hits hot streaks and then he hits low streaks. You've got 2 guys who hit over 300 for the season. And I'm like, 20 games into this season, it was looking like 6 or 7 or 8 guys were going to hit over 300. Eventually, the averages catch up with you. The length of the season catches up with you. And but generally, again, a lot of offensive numbers, a lot of stolen bases, a lot of pressure on guys to throw people out. I like where Oklahoma sits offensively going into the NCAA tournament.
That's John Hoover.
Nice.
For Sooners on SI. John, we appreciate the time and the preview of Oklahoma. Great to talk to you, and enjoy the regional.
All right. Appreciate it, fellas.